Let me ask you a question. If you're not yet where you want to be as a guitar player, how do you feel when you see people who are way better than you rip it up and down on YouTube or Instagram videos? Let me know in the comments. If your answer is something like, oh, I feel angry or depressed or frustrated or like I'll never get to their level, then maybe it's time you knock these people off their pedestal. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean in this video. And my goal is to give you a huge change in perspective that's going to make you feel a whole lot better about yourself as a guitar player today, and more importantly, make you feel a lot more confident about your potential to become as good of a guitar player as you want to be. And this video was inspired by a student of mine in rapid fire guitar practice training who recently asked me if I think it's true that great players like Yngwie Malmsteen, and he named Yngwie specifically, never get frustrated with their playing. And I think he named Yngwie specifically because Yngwie is famous for quoting in interviews how he believes he had natural talent, how even though he practiced quite a few hours when he was younger, guitar came just generally easy to him. He didn't have to think much about his technique, and when people ask him how does he pick fast or how does he do certain things on guitar, he just says, I don't know, just play with your ears. If it sounds good, it's good.
And everybody thinks like I'm completely full of it when I say this, but this is the truth. They ask me for advice, I go, play with your ears, play with your ears. When it sounds good, it's good.
Now, I could have just told my student, no, dude, that's not true at all. I've met a lot of great players. I've seen them in all kinds of situations and performing and recording, and believe me, they get frustrated just as much, if not more, as you do when you practice. But I think on some level, we all already intellectually understand that, so that answer wouldn't really be very satisfying. And I think it doesn't get to the root of why you might ask a question like my student asked, because it really meant that he was feeling insecure about his level as a player and about his potential to get to a level of someone like Yngwie or Steve Vai or John Petrucci or whoever. So here's what I told my student instead, and I think if you're watching this video, you're going to want to hear this as well. The first thing is you want to take everything people say in music business interviews with a huge grain of salt. Remember, nobody giving an interview is trying to give a guitar lesson. They're trying to, if they're smart, they're trying to give specific answers to questions that project a certain image of themselves in the music industry that builds or strengthens their brand. This is especially true of smart musicians like Yngwie, who I'm sure has to understand that on a very high level. Showing weaknesses, like talking about how much you may have struggled in your first 2 years of learning guitar because you had no idea what you were doing, isn't always projecting the exact image some people want to project, and it's not helping people build a certain type of brand they want to build. Now, I am not speaking for Yngwie. I have no idea if he actually struggled to learn guitar in the beginning or not. I just know that from my experience, I have never met anybody who has not struggled, and I know that the music business is the music business. By the way, I'm a huge fan of Yngwie, both musically and in terms of what he accomplished as a professional in the music industry. And if you think that Yngwie is cocky or arrogant or whatever, totally fine. Just know that part of building a strong brand is getting people to form strong, polarizing opinions about you one way or the other. So if you're going to rip on Yngwie in the comments, go ahead. Just know that the joke is kind of on you. Something to think about. Also, frustration means completely different things to different people because it's a very abstract concept. So it very well may be that Yngwie never felt frustrated in the same way that other people may define frustration today. Maybe that word never even crossed his mind. He simply saw the challenges he encountered as just par for the course of learning to play guitar. He knew he needed to practice more to overcome them, which he did, and so it is. Next, if it were true that great players really never get frustrated with their playing, then we would never see great players improve their playing year after year, decade after decade, and album after album. Because the fact that their playing is improving is a likely indicator that they were frustrated with their playing, because otherwise they would not feel any motivation to practice and level up their chops. Because let's face it, practicing takes a lot of time, especially when you're at a very high level already. Going up an extra 1% really takes a lot of work. It's not the same as when your technique is riddled with bad habits and you just learn to hold your thumb a little bit better and all of a sudden you catapulted yourself a couple of levels as a guitar player. It's a completely different ball game when you're already very advanced. By the way, there's tons of videos on YouTube of great players struggling to play stuff and getting visibly frustrated when they can't play whatever they want to play. Take a look here. Here's an example of John Petrucci messing up his famous chromatic exercise from the Rock Discipline video.
That was very difficult.
Now here's the great Jeff Loomis trying to record a solo and not being happy with the take.
Totally sucked at that.
Yeah. Here's the master Paul Gilbert, known for his incredible picking technique, talking about how he used to pick all wrong.
When I first started playing guitar, I held it almost backwards to how I hold it now. I used to hold it with 2 fingers and my thumb. So after 8 years of that, I completely turned it around and decided to hold it on the side of my first finger.
Now here's something really obvious and also incredibly easy to overlook. When you see someone nail an incredible solo on YouTube or Instagram and you see that one perfect take that just makes you drool with envy, it's easy to imagine that the person just woke up that morning, strolled into the studio, picked up his guitar and just nailed the solo in one take and then continued on with his day. What probably happened is that that person carved out probably that entire day to just sit there and just practice that solo, do take after take, and then compare like 25 different takes that were all like within 1% of 1% different of each other, picked out the most perfect one, edited the sound a little bit, and then posted it. You don't see that. What you see is somebody at the peak of their abilities showing the peak of what they can do. You don't see their frustrations, you don't see their challenges, but then when you go back to your practice room, you are alone with your challenges, with your bad habits, and you feel like you're the only one who's struggling. That's really not the case at all. The internet is just creating this myopic situation where all you see is great players being great and you see yourself as not great. As an aside, there have been some guitar players on Instagram or YouTube who have been busted for fake playing, where they were miming their hands essentially on the guitar to a pre-recorded track where it looked like they were playing but they weren't actually playing. Now, I'm not calling out anybody in particular here. I don't even follow the debate closely at all. All I'm saying is be careful, because on the internet a lot of things appear to be way more perfect than they are in real life, whether it is people flaunting the wealth they don't really have or flaunting the guitar skills they don't really have either. Check out this video. This is one of my hardest and fastest solos from my instrumental album Reflections, and I'm gonna tell you, this definitely did not just take me 1 or 2 takes to casually record and then just throw it up on YouTube. This was recorded after maybe a couple of hours of intense practicing where I really warmed up my fingers and ironed out any little kinks in the solo, and then I did several takes to get the version that I was happy to let the whole world hear. Now, to be fair, I can play within a striking distance of this pretty much on any given day, as long as I have been practicing consistently in the weeks leading up to that. But there's a big difference between being able to play within a striking distance of something and feeling proud to let the whole world hear what you just recorded. I'm just keeping it real here because most guitar players will never admit to what I just told you. And while we are on the topic of knocking great players off their pedestal, remember, they're just human beings. They're people just like you and I. They go to the doctor to get their blood pressure checked. They pay their taxes. They put their pants on one leg at a time. They go to the bathroom same way you go to the bathroom. And in many areas of life outside of guitar, you're probably better off or at a much higher level than any of the great guitar players you look up to. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure I could bench press more than Paul Gilbert. Just saying. So now that I've sufficiently challenged your beliefs about great players, there's one thing you want to absolutely make sure you do each time you practice that pretty much guarantees you're going to improve. It doesn't matter how much or how little practice time you've got, doesn't matter how many bad habits are in your technique. If you do this one thing, it's almost impossible not to get better. If you want to know what that thing is, check out the video on the screen right now.